Hello everybody. If you clicked on this video looking for the best TFT comp, easy wins, or a free cookie cutter build to follow, you will be sorely disappointed. Instead, my intention is to cover some general aspects of TFT that will help you improve your own game without the stress of trying to remember specific comps, item choices, when exactly to do this thing versus the other, that kind of stuff. Please do not mistake this as the only way to play the game. It is simply what I've found to bring the most consistent success in my games, and therefore is not a magic lucky ticket to winning TFT. Getting better after all takes more experience of the game above all else. Kind of like a lot of other games. All right, enough with this intro, let's go. The first thing I want to cover is definitely well known, but let's talk about it real quick anyway. Do not put any items on any character until the initial minion waves are done. Save all the items you get from minions because while it's cool to get BF and a recurve right off the bat, you may find a large rod from the very last minion you kill. If you make the sword of the divine beforehand by combining the BF and the recurve, you just lost the potential to have a rage blade, which is a much more versatile item compared to the divine. So only after killing all minions should you start thinking about which items to combine. Also, don't feel like you have to use all your items right away. If you end up with a spare tier or chain vest, you can easily hang on to them until the next roulette at the very least. As I said in the intro, there is a ton of context in how these things actually play out, as in which items to save, which to combine, etc. But a good way to start is by knowing which item combinations make what. There's an absolutely amazing cheat sheet made by Skara, which I will link in the description below, that you can easily keep up in the background while you play. However, don't be alarmed. You will definitely learn the item combinations with experience, so do not stress over memorizing everything. Just play the game and have fun. Let's discuss some items in detail though. Now, one last time, there is far too much context in a given game to give a straight up ranking to each and every item. Their usefulness is determined by a lot of factors, most notably the stage your game is in and the characters you have and want to build in the future. However, there are a couple outliers in my opinion. I wouldn't go as far as to say always pick these items up no matter what, but they are absolutely more useful than others across more situations. The recurve bow is the first to come to mind. Attack speed is great on literally every type of champ. Attacking faster on an attack damage based champion is a no-brainer. However, I'd argue that attack speed is just as valuable, if not even more so, on spellcasters because the faster they attack, the faster they gain mana, which is their lifeblood. If spellcasters don't have mana, they don't cast spells, simple as that. Now, taking damage also grants some mana, but if you're building around spellcasters, you probably want them to take as little damage as possible. Also, when I say spellcasters, I'm not referring to the sorcerer class. I mean any champion whose, let's say, main draw is casting their special ability. Now, speaking of special abilities, the needlessly large rod is also very useful on practically everybody. The vast majority of specials deal magic damage, meaning ability power will scale its damage. Unless the ability specifically states attack damage or physical damage, you can assume the rod is affecting it. Also, if the special has any healing involved, not to be confused with bonus health, then the rod will also amplify that healing. Finally, piggybacking off of the recurve bow, the rage blade is a very versatile item. You can smack it on any champion and it will be of great benefit due to the attack speed endlessly stacking. Not to mention, it gives some attack speed and AP before the champ even begins to stack the buff, so it's a very solid item all across the board. Now, there are uses for pretty much every item in the game, so experiment and find out what fits your playstyle the best. There are a ton of combinations to work with, and at the end of the day, your team comp matters just as much as the items on them, so don't worry if you mess up a combination here or there. For most, if not every single game of Teamfight Tactics, the early game is where your choices matter most. Everything that happens down the line is influenced by the choices early on. If you've played your fair share of TFT, you know what I'm talking about. There are a few different ways to approach the early game, but the way I have found the most success with is by avoiding the reroll button entirely until the Krug stage, which is round 9. The main reason for this is twofold. Number one, it saves you money. The more money you have, the more interest you receive, and thus the more money you have. It should be pretty obvious how this goes on. Number two, the champions you get in the earlier levels aren't too necessary for your end game comp. Oftentimes I end up getting a couple class synergies like Wild, which is like Warwick and Needl, or Gunslinger like Lucian and Trist, and make sure that I have a good enough frontline to not die to Krugs, and then I just ride the wave of interest until I decide to start rolling for champs. A lot of people call this method of playing hyper rolling or transitioning, and I'm not going to explain it in full detail here. If you'd like a separate video on the topic of early game, let me know in the comments below and I can definitely make one. Everything in TFT revolves around two things: the money and the champions. Items are important, yes, but money and champions definitely play a bigger impact. This is why you can literally get 0 items from a minion phase and win the game versus someone who gets a recurve, needlessly, and BF sword who is the first to die. Now, not using the reroll button does not mean do not buy champions at all. That would be silly. Instead, buy any champions you think suit you during the early game. Just had 2 Mordecai's pop up, buy them both without thought. The chances of you getting at least 1 Mord in the next couple rounds is very high. Got lucky and found a tier 3 champ on your first PvP round? Absolutely buy it. The reason for this is that selling champs yields the exact same gold as buying them, no matter their tier. Their star rank, on the other hand, does impact how much much they sell for, but that varies based on which tier the champion is. I'll throw up a quick picture of the exact prices, but you don't really need to pay much attention to it. Just know that ranking up a champion will mean you lose gold if you sell them, save for a 2-star tier 1 champion. That's the only situation where you don't lose gold. Rather, think of buying champions as getting a loan on them. At literally any point, you can sell the champ and get your gold back and any items they had on. The champs you receive early on should not dictate your endgame build, at least not in every game. Again, this topic can be easily categorized as transitioning and absolutely has too much context to cover it all in this video. Let me know in the comments, again, if you want to see a separate video, and I can definitely make one. Still, getting into this method of playing the early game is a very valuable tool to learn because the benefit of coming into stage 10 plus with like 60 gold to spend right away is very powerful. Why, you ask? Well, number one, you can roll for champs for a much longer period of time without the relative risk of losing too much capital. What I mean by capital is that if you've been rolling champs for the entire match so far and have like 10 or 15 gold to spend, spending 2 gold is a very large portion of your overall gold or capital. Meanwhile, if you've saved up and only bought champs that you get with the free reroll every stage, you're probably sitting anywhere from 40 to 60 gold easily. Now, spending 2 gold isn't as big a deal. Not even close, actually. However, there is an even more important reason to this. Number 2, you can spend the gold to level up and then start rolling for champs. Why should I waste the gold on levels when I can just roll for the same champs I already have and rank them up, you may be asking. The reason is that chances are, if you're looking for a 3-star champion to play around, it's probably a tier 1 like Vayne or Tristana. The later the game goes, the higher level you are, and the higher your level, the less likely you are to roll a lower tier champion. As in, if you're banking everything on getting that fat 3-star Vayne, you are really taking a gamble. Here's a chart of the chance you have at getting a specific tier of champion based on your level. You can see at levels 1 and 2, you only receive tier 1 champions to choose from. It makes sense. Level 3, you now have a 65% chance of getting a tier 1. 4, 50%. Level 5, 37%. You can see where this goes. Basically, if you're shooting for a 3-star tier 1 and make your mind up on that right at the start of the game, you are at mercy of the reroll gods. If RNG is not in your favor, even if you get a 2-star Vayne right away and then get another within the next couple stages, you still have 3 more rolls of Vayne to get before she's 3-star. I'm not going to bother doing the math, but let's just say it's pretty unlikely. And on top of that, getting a 3-star tier 1 doesn't really impact the overall game too much. Generally, the higher tier of champion, the better their base stats are, and especially the better their special ability is. Have you seen a 2-star Cho'Gath with Titanic Hydra and Frozen Heart? No, you probably don't want to. All right, we're getting a bit convoluted here, so let me get to the point. Don't spend your money on rerolls. Save it, and once you get to stage 10 and beyond, start looking to dump the cash into leveling up. The higher your level, the better your odds are of rolling higher tier champions. Don't get too attached to the champs you get early on, because having a team filled with lower tier but higher star ranks will lose much more often than not to one with simply higher tiers. Basically, 3 stars are overrated. They cost way too much money once you factor in the cost of constantly re-rolling for them, and simply leveling up to get the better odds of rolling higher tiers is going to drastically improve your overall effectiveness. Once again, there is tons of context that goes into which champs to save, which to sell, when to level, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, just play the game. You will figure out what brings you the most success much better than I or anyone else will. But if you'd like to see a more in-depth video covering specific gameplay choices like the ones just mentioned, let me know and I can make it happen for sure. Now, go and take these tips and start practicing in-game. After all, playing the game is the best way to actually improve. You can soak up all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to apply it, then what's the point? If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to be informed of future releases. Also, you can follow my Twitch at twitch.tv/WoolieGaming, where you can come ask me questions and watch me play in real time. Consider joining our Discord server as well. I always notify when I upload a new video or go live on Twitch on the Discord, so if you want those notifications, Discord is the best place to be. Not to mention, we have plenty of discussion that takes place on Risk of Rain 2, Path of Exile, and now Teamfight Tactics, so if you want a place to hang out and talk about games, come give it a shot in our Discord. Links to the Discord and my Twitch are in the description and my comment below. Thank you for watching.